Retro Hangover, supported via Patreon by listeners like you. We would especially like to thank patrons Lyle and McKarns, Ashton, Ruby, Randall, Quiggle, Tony G, Studstill Smash, the Milkman, Katie Quigg, Paul Romalho, Raging Demon, JC, Meagan, Caruso, MaskedKeaton, Andrew Liguori, Ozzy Garcia, the Retro Vixen, Adam from The Good, the Bad, the Backlog, Thunderdome Gaming Society, Lucas Lobo, Jenny E, Rick Firestone, Keith Gasper, Dave Jackson, Eric Gess, Kayla Jackson, Nomad from the Retro Wildlands Podcast, and Ash Event. Your continued engagement and generous donations are deeply appreciated.
Open your ears and crack some beers. You are listening to the most recent episode of Retro Hangover.
Retro and classic gamers, welcome to the podcast where we stare starry sins swallowing sweet sweat scintillatingly. What? Scintillating. I said that right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You got it right. Which I know is unusual, but we're here and we did it. So.
Did I get that? This is Retro Hangover. I am your co-host, Chris Copleen, with special guest, Soha. And, as always, your host, Shane. Give me something to dick dragon shoot Koski.
Jacked up and good to go.
Fired up.
You know, Chris?
Yeah.
Every time people mention that you just go into space when you do this.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, I will time it. How long he just went away, just took a trip, went to, I don't know, some random ass McDonald's out there in the moon and came back. And it was 7 seconds long from the time that you just suddenly disappeared. It wasn't even just, so slowly going into space. You just gone. And then you came back.
Speed of light.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it was only 7 seconds.
Well,
I'll do better next time.
Well, the whole Dick Dragon, I think, was pretty much a lot longer than that, but still.
Don't you know?
I mean, thank you. I appreciate the fact that you admire the length that I can hold the Dick Dragon.
Where are we going with this? What?
It can be.
Everyone loves someone that can handle the Dick Dragon, right?
That is true. I've heard. I don't know.
I've heard that as well.
I've heard tales.
But in case, we are extremely happy to have Soha on an episode with us. Soha has been a member of our community for a very long time. He was also part of the Growing Up Gaming in Brazil episode that we also did with Dischimera. And that is over on our Patreon. But now he gets to get his full-fledged episode here. So, Soha, thank you so much for being on the show.
The honor is all mine. I'm really glad that I can be part of an episode, and it's really fun to just listen to you guys, especially because this Chimera introduced me, right? And it was conveniently also at a time that I started going to the gym, and I'm like, okay, I will listen to them while I just pump this weight up and just get jacked. It's all just the greatest thing ever.
Nice.
Small's the goal.
I love it.
I hope you're much more jacked now. I hope those veins are flowing, much like in our titular character Gorp. Gorp's veins are flowing as well.
Oh yeah,
I
am pretty
He's
jacked.
Magnificent.
I'm happy to hear that you're jacked. I'm still not jacked, and I've been going to the gym too. It's pizza for me. That's what it is.
See, there you go. So that you don't need any sort of pre-workout, none of that shenanigans. You don't need to shake some powder in a bottle. All you need is a good episode of RHP, and
that's it.
That's right. Get you them gains.
Yeah,
just slam that Dick Dragon into your ear.
Exactly. All you need is a Dick Dragon, baby, nothing more.
Exactly.
That's where all the gains come from.
Plenty of protein.
The patented dragon push-up.
Would you?
Soha can do that now.
Of course I can. Just tell me how to do it first.
Oh, well, I mean, if you have to ask, then, you know.
We might put that out on Patreon. No promises, okay? Keaton, don't audit us.
That's OnlyFans content. That's what that is.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
Probably in 2069. That's when the content will come out.
Nice.
Okay, what are we talking about today, though? I think I'm excited to talk about this, but I'm not sure. So I got to be reminded.
Oh, well, if you didn't know, it's Warcraft in space.
Oh, Warcraft in space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, me orc, but I use lightsaber. Right.
That's right.
Yeah, like that, right?
Civilized orcs.
He not that kind of orc.
No, zug.
No zug.
Gabu. Wrong game. I'm going to be talking about... I hope I don't talk about Warcraft too much during this episode, because we are talking about StarCraft.
Hell yeah.
The amazing art... Did I give that away? I'm giving it away.
I mean, okay. Does anybody notable know that, really? I mean, come on.
You're right. The amazing and notable RTS from 1998. But does it hold up today? You'll have to hang on till the end of the episode to find out.
A little bit of mystery, right?
Oh man, the tension is palpable. Wouldn't that be fucking wild though if we just like ended this episode and be like, nah man, that game's shit.
It's awful.
Yeah.
I don't own a mouse.
Well, surely we're gonna have to hold a little bit of mystery here. Well, we don't know actually. Let's just place a little bit of Protoss magic here and say you don't remember anything. You all just had your minds raised.
There we go.
It's all gone.
You just got Will Smithed.
Yeah. For ire.
That's right. And Taro Adun. We could just spend this entire episode just quoting the characters. It's ridiculous. This is like the Monty Python of video games.
Before we get to the game du jour, we like to talk about the games that we have been playing lately.
As we are wont to do.
You got it.
There we go.
Finally got it.
I got in on it. I'm taking it back.
All right. So we'll start out with you, Soha. What have you been playing lately?
Wow. Actually, this might be my first episode, but I have been mentioned in these bands for a couple of times. Apparently, I am known as that one Splatoon guy. And you are correct to assume that I am the one guy that plays Splatoon. Yeah, I've been playing a little bit of Splatoon 3, as I often do at my nights, and I get frustrated, and I say, this game sucks, can't wait to go back to it tomorrow. Other than that, I've been playing actually quite a few games these last couple of weeks. I finished Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga last.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's great, man. It's still really great. Just a final boss. Actually, bullshit. Why do they have to make it like that? I don't know. Like the whole game. Oh man, easy peasy. No problem here. Can't even know what hit him. Get to the final boss. This sucks. What the fuck were they thinking?
Sounds like Mario Land 2.
Oof.
Yeah, pretty much. Before that, I played... Actually, yeah, I also played Metroid Prime Remaster. Both. I just 100% the whole game. Like, not just a file. I just like went like, okay, look, I'm going to play normal mode. I'm going to play hard mode. I'm going to get 100% on everything. I will say, yes, it's Metroid Prime. I don't think anything else needs to be said. Oh, but it's prettier. A lot prettier.
Hey, there you go. I got to actually get around to playing that. I have the trilogy on my Wii U, and I still haven't actually played it.
Oh, you should. I really, really hope they do the same treatment for 2, because 2 is incredibly underrated in the trilogy. A lot of people hate it because of some of the mechanics they employ there, but I really like it. A lot, actually. I might be thinking I like it more than 1, but that's a hot take. Oh, hot take alert.
But it's
we never do hot takes on this show.
Absolutely not. No.
Never. Especially not me.
Before all of this, I actually been playing quite a few games at the weekends. I talk to, I do Twitch streams, right? and I talked to the people that watch me. I started doing a little voting for everyone. Like I played some games at the Saturdays, and they voted for me to play Mario and Luigi. But before that, I wasn't doing it, and before that, I was playing Earthbound for the first time. And yeah, it's really great. Even though I already knew pretty much everything about it before playing it, because, well, it's kind of hard to avoid spoilers for a 30-year-old game nowadays.
True.
You're horrible. You're a horrible person for spoiling it.
I mean, if he listened to our episode on it, which I assume he did, I mean, we kind of spoiled it for him anyway if it hadn't already been done.
Well, they're horrible people too.
I'm sure. I mean, that's for different reasons probably, but yeah.
Yeah, don't spoil the 30-year-old games, guys. That's just something you do not do, okay? Never.
Why do we even have this show then? What?
Well, some games people don't care about spoilers, I guess. Like, will people really care that you're gonna spoil a Dragon Wing?
I mean, you will. Yeah. We need to save the surprise for disembodied legs.
That's so crazy. I can't believe that made it out the door like that. But anyway.
Yo, for real though, go listen to Dragon Wing. That episode supposedly is hilarious. I've been told.
I mean, we had a good time recording it, as I recall.
And we did. Yes.
It was, for an episode that the whole premise was just because, haha, Wang, Dragon Wang. it was really good. I'm not gonna lie.
That's what our entire show is built on. Soha, what are you talking about?
Well,
we're deep diving with Wang.
That's right.
Well, you see, that's why every episode is just as good as the last one.
Plenty of Wang.
Consistent quality. Yeah. I didn't say good quality, just a level of quality.
Yeah, just consistent.
Yeah.
So I guess that means we're moving on to you, Shane.
Oh, okay.
And what game have you been playing?
Oh, just one? Do I only get to pick one? Oh, okay.
If you want, you can talk about multiple, but if you insist.
Oh, geez. Okay. Wow. Let's see. What have I been playing? That's an excellent question. I think apart from, the usual, just kind of getting prepped for some of this stuff, I actually went and downloaded the HD remake of the game du jour, even though I still have, and actually this is a rare, I might add, opportunity for me to post something to our Instagram, because usually it's Chris that has all the cool physical goodies and whatnot. But
yes,
I still have my original StarCraft discs and my big box. Oh. And also, if I have to dig it out because I think it's buried in my closet somewhere, but I still have a StarCraft Protoss promotional T-shirt from
snap
1998.
A true fan.
Yeah. So I gotta find that. I wore that a ton back in the day, so it's a little faded, but it's.
I hope it doesn't affect your decision at the end of the show.
Oh no, not at all. I'm very objective about this completely. Yeah. But anyway, so did a little bit of the HD remake of the game. And turns out it looks good. Still plays like StarCraft, so I was happy. Outside of that, got a little bit more time in on Elden Ring. I am slowly inching my way towards the finish line there. Got like 1.5 areas left to go, so almost towards the end. I'm creeping up on 180 hours played, so that's an investment. But you know what? It's all worth it because that game is fantastic. I think that's kind of about it. I haven't really been. I've been doing some gaming on my phone, just doing some casual mobile stuff. I got sucked into Street Fighter Duel, because that just came out recently.
What?
Yeah, it's not what you think it is. It's not an actual fighting game.
I was about to say, you?
No, not at all. The closest I ever got to a mobile fighting game was probably the Marvel Strike Force, and that's just because it's like the super casual fighting game. So I wasn't absolutely terrible at it, but no, Street Fighter Duel is actually just kind of like honestly, it's a reskin of pretty much all of the idle RPGs that are out there. You make a party of, well, technically 4 Street Fighter characters. You have 3 and then like a tag in. You just run like auto battle, like party based combat stuff. It's all right. It's not bad. Their monetization is fucking awful, but that's not surprising.
Yeah, expect.
Don't know how long I'll stick with it, but you know, it's a gacha game, so you know, you shouldn't expect any better, honestly. And there's a whole controversy with the very first event they just put out with it's a Monster Hunter collab, and you get like a Monster Hunter version of Ken, but the character is 100% paywalled. Like you can't even like, people were saving up their premium currency, and so was I, with the idea that like we were going to do a bunch of pulls once the event hit to try to get the new character. And then Capcom and Crunchyroll Games, because they're the ones that are publishing this thing, were basically just like, yeah, fuck all you guys. You don't get to use the gems, which you use for literally everything else. We made a special currency just for this event, and the only way you can get it is either getting like 6 of them by grinding or buying packs for like $50. Super shitty. So I don't know how long the game's going to last, but it's been okay as a little time waster for the last like week or so at any rate. Yeah, I think that's mostly it for me. Just a couple of little things here and there, still plunking away at some Nomad Survival on Steam. And at the time of this recording, I'm getting myself hyped for the Diablo 4 early access beta starting tomorrow.
Oh, already.
I'm excited for that. Yeah. But that's me.
Very topical, isn't it? Since we're talking about a Blizzard game today.
I know, right?
It is.
Yeah, it is.
Also, Capcom might be doing good these past few years and such, but at the end of the day, they kind of still are Capcom, and they just go like, yeah, sometimes they do this kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of which, speaking of Monster Hunter, you know, if you dump 180 hours in Elden Ring, you can probably try Monster Hunter out. I think you're gonna have a great time.
I don't disagree with you, Soha. And actually, I have it.
You've talked about that recently.
Yeah, I've got Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate on my 3DS, so it's sitting there. And you know what? I've got a 14-hour plane ride ahead of me in about 3 weeks from now. So there's a very good chance I might just dive into that while I'm sitting on a plane.
Oh yeah,
trapped for 14 hours.
Shane is gonna be able to get his first Tetsukabra. He's gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I remember that guy, the big ass frog with tusks." That's
yeah. You're saying words and I don't know what they mean, but that sure sounds exciting.
I can't wait to hear a report back on Monster Hunter. I think that's probably going to lead to an episode.
Probably. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Probably.
At any rate, Chris, what have you been up to? What's been keeping you busy?
I have been playing mostly been playing the game we're going to be reviewing next.
Yes.
For our next major episode, and that has been occupying all my time. And I'll save any of my thoughts for that episode because they are all over the place. And you'll understand what I mean in 2 weeks. So
all over the place, unlike the game.
I
mean, it's a straight line. Yeah, it's a straight line, and the fantasies are final.
That is true. Yeah,
for the 13th time. But I have been supporting our Discord and Ozzy running the Retro Hangover review crew, and been playing some Rocket Knight Adventures. And I have to say, I had a fantastic time with that game. We're in April now. In real time, we're not in April, but it was our review crew game of the month for March. So we've moved on to another game now for April. And I had such a great time with that. I gave it an 8.5 over there, and I gave it a brief review. I have no idea where it's going to end up. There was someone in our Discord, Dave Jackson from Tales from the Backlog, that hated it, but I know he doesn't like retro games. We still like you though, Dave. I mean, maybe eventually you'll get over it, but it's okay. We do love and appreciate you, even though if you don't like good games. I don't like good games either from time to time.
Yeah,
as is known.
I have noticed that, Chris.
Hey, it happened. Disco Elysium still sucks. Anyway, Rocket Knight Adventures is, how do I explain this? It's like Konami. It's peak Konami. It's not an arcade game in any sense of the word. It's like a true platformer kind of game, but the fact that you can zoom all over with your chargy rocket thing, and it adds a different element to the gameplay in and of itself, makes it just such a joy. And a lot of people are saying it's difficult, and it is. And I was playing it on my computer at first because I heard the Japanese version was
easier. And in many ways it is, but it's not that much different than the US version, which I have a physical copy of. And because I was able to just play through using save states, learning the levels, I put it in my Sega Genesis and I one credit cleared it. Didn't continue at all. I died a couple times, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I was able to beat the game without using any continues. I'm extremely proud of myself. I love Rocket Knight Adventures. That is such a joyous game, and you should all get down with the possums. Thought I was going to say another P word, but no, it's possum.
I really want to do that. I just be meaning to try to find a time. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow, actually.
Yeah, you should play it. Give it a review. Then you can nominate a game yourself.
Yeah,
there you go.
I can't wait for my game to be nominated and probably voted and get absolutely lambasted by everyone. But still.
Well, it's not Disco Elysium.
Yeah.
So I guess that means we can transition into our brief history. So Shane.
Yes.
We know you are the PC Master Racer out of probably the both of us. Definitely. I don't know how to compare to Soha, but between the two of us, you are the PC Master Racer. I can't think of anyone better than to give the brief history of StarCraft. What do you think?
Well, I mean, you know what? I think you're right.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
As I make an awkward segue and just should have ended it there, Shane,
Yeah.
would you please give us the brief history of StarCraft?
By the mid to late 90s, Blizzard Entertainment had established themselves as perhaps the premier developer in the PC gaming space. Possessing the rare ability to garner a sizable following of console gamers along with their PC bread and butter, Rare was the individual who had not at least heard of the real-time strategy game Warcraft 2 or the Gauntlet-inspired dungeon crawler Diablo. Though their portfolio of titles may have been small, they more than made up for a lack of quantity with a nearly spotless track record of quality that would serve to define them in the years that followed. Additionally, with the introduction of their Battle.net online multiplayer service, Blizzard had helped to usher in a new era of social gaming that went beyond physical boundaries. Not ones to rest upon their proverbial laurels, Blizzard soon set out to establish what would become the third tentpole IP in their burgeoning roster, an RTS not unlike their successful Warcraft series, but with an interstellar twist. Development on this new title would officially kick off in 1995, shortly after the release of Warcraft 2. StarCraft, as it came to be known, would begin life as what most might consider to be not much more than an overhaul mod of Warcraft. Built entirely in the existing Warcraft 2 engine, this nascent version of the game would make its public debut at E3 1996. Unfortunately, reception was tepid at best, with many who saw the demo leaving the convention with the unshakable impression that it was nothing more than Warcraft in space. Taking this criticism to heart, Blizzard set out to completely reinvent the project in an effort to both visually and mechanically distance it from its Warcraft roots. There would be renewed focus on fleshing out the game's selection of races, increasing the total from Warcraft's 2 to 3, with each requiring distinctly different tactics to achieve success. This level of variety set StarCraft apart from its RTS contemporaries, who often differentiated between factions with mere palette swaps of units. Additionally, the game would shift from hand-drawn character assets to fully rendered graphics. All of this work would ultimately pay dividends at the game's next reveal during E3 of the following year, with the general sentiment about the title skewing decidedly more positive. Development would continue, however, with Blizzard opting to completely overhaul the game's engine, including a perspective shift from top-down to isometric. After a number of Blizzard's now famous when it's ready delays, StarCraft would eventually see release for PC on March 31st of 1998. Commercial reception was overwhelmingly positive, propelling the star-hopping strategy opus to best-selling PC Game of the Year status with its impressive 1.5 million copies sold worldwide by the close of the 1998 calendar year. Total sales figures would end up settling somewhere in the neighborhood of 9.5 million units, with Korea accounting for roughly half of those sales alone. Critics also loved the game, citing it as one of the most well-refined takes on the RTS genre, despite noting that it did not necessarily offer anything new or particularly revolutionary. Other strong points noted by review outlets included the varied playable races, the quality audio design, and the polished storytelling. Multiple PC gaming magazines declared it the best PC game of 1998, a prestigious award in its own right, but particularly noteworthy in a year that also saw the release of genre-defining titles like Half-Life. Even with all the praise and adoration received at release, it may very well be StarCraft's enduring legacy that is of utmost importance. Many critics have started to call it one of the greatest games ever made, stating that it is perhaps the single best real-time strategy game ever created. As may have been evident by the percentage of sales figures, StarCraft became somewhat of a national pastime in South Korea, establishing a pro-gaming scene and becoming the country's national esport. In 2021, StarCraft was admitted to the Strong National Museum of Play's World Video Game Hall of Fame, further cementing it as one of the best experiences the gaming industry has to offer. And that is your brief history of StarCraft.
All right, thank you very much for that, Shane. It's always great to hear about the history of StarCraft, just because, it's StarCraft.
It is.
It's dreamy. We're giving too much away, as we already indicated.
That ship has sailed like that.
I know. And if you want a really niche reference here, I'm just going to say this. Arnie, if you're listening, I love you too, much like I love Dave Jackson. But I do want to say that StarCraft is in the Strong National Museum's Video Game Hall of Fame, and Grim Fandango is not.
Weird.
If you understand what I mean, if you understand what I mean by that, you might need to go back and listen to some episodes in The King of Games 98. So there's that.
Well, that is clearly irrefutable evidence, isn't it?
I think so.
I mean, I certainly think so.
But this is definitely a monumental game, and it's weird because it did get all that adoration when it came out in 98, as it should have. But like the love for the game that endured well after it, like it's shocking. It's like a snowball with this momentum, especially in a country like South Korea, and just how people have revered it since it came out back then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Actually, well, since I know a lot of things, well, not a lot of things. I know a couple of things about how StarCraft just exploded in Korea. It all really has to do with the perfect set of events. Just everything perfectly aligned. You could say the stars aligned.
Oh.
Ooh.
In a way
nice.
Where it would just explode in that region of the planet. Because, wow.
Would you say like a supernova?
Exactly like a supernova.
Yes.
And it was pretty much just Korea had a big infrastructure for internet at the time, way ahead of everyone else. And there's this new game called StarCraft coming out, and people just want to play anything. And since Korea is well known for PC gaming because of the PC bongs and all of that, they were just like, okay, we're going to play it. And it just became the most popular thing ever, to the point where there would be broadcasts of people playing the game on television, like a national sport.
Yeah.
Well, like we here in Brazil have football, they have StarCraft, or rather had. It's been a while.
I thought it would still be going. I thought it was still a big deal. Did they move on to StarCraft 2? I know we're kind of getting off.
They did,
rails,
but I haven't really kept up with that. Maybe Soha knows more than I do, but I know that after StarCraft 2 came out, I think a lot of people kind of like it. It was kind of the same deal with like Counter-Strike, right? Like this transition from 1.6 to Source. A lot of people just ended up going back to 1.6 and sticking with it forever. And it was kind of the same deal here. Or I think a lot of people just went back to Brood War and just never left that.
Yeah, because StarCraft 2 kind of went over like a wet fart, but that's a different story for another time.
Yeah,
well, if you need that other time, I'll always be here. The thing is that it pretty much just a lot of things happened. I'm gonna do a quick summary here because I read about this a long time ago. So not only do I not remember the fine details, but also it would take a lot of time to go over it. But pretty much, there's the Korean Esports National Organization. I don't know exactly what is the acronym, but I know the acronym. It's called KESPA. And Blizzard had direct contact with them, and that is how they managed to get all the events going for the game at that place and then all such things. But eventually, Blizzard, being Blizzard, they wanted full control of the whole thing. And things started going downhill in this aspect. But also, in another aspect, there was this huge, like absolutely gigantic match-fixing scandal that pretty much just tainted the game in Korea.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, so there were a lot of big players involved with it, the whole thing. One of them is called Savior, which is like the biggest one. There's this whole, like, there are a lot of terms that people use that are borrowed from Korea that they use in StarCrafts and such to not like to call players. Like Gosu is, I think, somewhat of an equivalent of being a god player, something like that. And there's Bonjour, which is like an entity so great or something like that. Pretty much the GOAT, is equivalent to the GOAT. And people would call Savior Bonjour. And since he was like the main figure involved in the match fixing scandal, the term became kind of taboo around Korea. Some people have come out and said that it's not that big of a deal if you call someone else Bonjour, since the term has become kind of, it lost its original meaning pretty much. So if you want to call someone that you think is really good at the game, you call them Bonjour and stuff like that. But yeah, after all the match fixing scandal and Blizzard trying their hardest to take over, like solely take over esports scene at Korea, interest in the game started dwindling a little bit, like not that much. But obviously, when 2010 came around, they really wanted people to transition into StarCraft 2. And the problem is, StarCraft 2 just wasn't that great, and people didn't really want to go to it. Eventually, at around the same time, League of Legends came out, and people were like, well, this new League of Legends game is really interesting, and a lot of people were playing it, so we're gonna go after it. So that's pretty much where Korea is at now. They're playing League of Legends, they're playing pretty much everything made by Riot Games, actually.
Huh.
And Overwatch.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, at least
like
Blizzard has that going for it. But wow, we got an extensive history of StarCraft in Korea. That is awesome.
Well, that is one of the things that I just got to know. Like, I read about it a long time ago. It was like when I was really into StarCraft, and just the useless information that I have stored in my brain for some reason.
I guess that's a great way to transition into our own personal experiences with this game. So, Shane, how about you kick this one off? How did you get into StarCraft? How did you hear about StarCraft? All that stuff. What's your personal history with it?
Oh man. All right, let's see. Well, it was back in 19 dickety doo, and I was wearing an onion on my belt, which was the style at the time. No. So yeah, I can't remember. I want to say I had this right around release. I'm pretty sure that's the case. My memory's a little fuzzy at this point, but I'm pretty sure that I did. I am not a huge RTS fan, admittedly. I really never have been. The only other RTS game I ever really got into was Command and Conquer, and that was about it. So there are a lot of other good ones out there, but it just wasn't really my thing. But for, well, I would say some reason, but I'm pretty sure we'll be able to go over why. StarCraft just really stuck with me, and I played a lot of it. So my personal history with it is I got it right around release and played a shit ton. I took advantage of the battle.net service and played with friends. And I don't know, I'm sure my experience is not unique, but I think this also speaks to me not being the hardcore RTS guy, in that the most enjoyment I got out of StarCraft was actually not the sort of like baseline game experience. I never did any competitive StarCraft, like online with people or anything like that, because I would just get my ass kicked. I really liked the actual single player story, and we'll get into more details about that a little bit later. But the biggest thing that kept me coming back was the ability to create your own levels. And having that built into the game was just awesome. And so I would just spend an inordinate amount of time just dicking around with the StarCraft level editor, just making like just whatever I wanted. I usually ended up making things that were custom maps that focused more around like taking a small squad and like trying to clear like a zone rather than like the more traditional base building type stuff, because I thought that was more interesting. So I did a lot of those. And just going and like trying out other people's custom levels and things like that. Like that's what really hooked me into it. And that's where like the long tail of StarCraft for me was in that like customizability. So I had a lot of good times with the StarCraft editor specifically.
You know, that's interesting. There's a lot of what you say that mirrors what my personal experience was, because I do remember dipping into the editor quite a bit as well, except mine was more geared around towards competitive play. Like I try to make those kind of maps. So I was probably terrible at it because looking back, I was 13, 14 years old. Right. So probably not making anything good. Definitely playing those maps that other people created. I don't know if I got this at release or a little bit afterwards, because I don't know if I had gotten my like Gateway 2000 at that point, because prior to that, I had a Mac. I remember playing Warcraft 2 on a Mac.
Yeah.
And that's how I experienced Warcraft 2 for the first time. So I don't know if I had transitioned over to PC in order to play it in 1998, because I know that StarCraft came out on Mac a year later. But I will say, as soon as that game came out, and I referenced this in the Shining Force 2 episode, that there was this friend that I went over to every Friday, and he had a room. I don't know what his dad did for a living. I probably should, because like they called me their weekend son, and I still talk with them every once in a while on Facebook and stuff like that. They had this room that had 3 PCs all hooked up. So I think it had to be something in coding or something. But he was his dad was a big PC nerd, and they were all connected. And when StarCraft came out, they got StarCraft and they installed it in all 3 computers, and we'd essentially have a LAN party every Friday.
Nice.
Oh, that's very sick.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
So we'd play against each other, or we'd play co-op against the computer. Fuck the campaign mode. I mean, it was just something that we just said, oh, you got it done? Yeah, we got it done.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Which, funny enough, that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about this episode, is the campaign mode. But like, there was no dedication.
It's time for redemption, Chris.
It is time for redemption. I'm paying for it, but not really. It's an enjoyable payment. But a lot of what you said, like, I remember when I would go back to my house and I had my own copy, I would log on to BattleNet. I think it had some lame name like Dark Paladin 1169 or something.
X's on either side.
Yeah.
And
Of course. And I would remember going on to BattleNet, and like I didn't like the competitive play against humans because I was terrible at the game. I was not very good, and I'm still not very good at RTSs. I just love them. I'm just terrible at them. But I would go in there and I'd play a lot of co-op against the computer. And for some reason, I ended up having a pretty decent rank, all things considered, like considering how terrible I was at it. Like I had, like, because BattleNet had ranks back then, right? There's rank matches.
Yeah.
From what I recall.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
I had a pretty decent rank, but I would spend most of my time finding those created maps by users where it would be like themed around a console RPG, and you'd start out with a character and like you go fight things, and every character that you fought would like give you gold and give you experience. It would level up like your little Protoss zealot, or it would be a Hydralisk that would level up, kind of like heroes in Warcraft 3. And then you would be able to buy stuff at stores and level up your character or heal them or whatever, or choose an upgrade for them. And then you go on to another area. And it's like, I spent a ton of time doing that, like spending up to 3 o'clock in the morning playing with other people doing this on BattleNet, like for years. It just absolutely hooked me. So like StarCraft is a huge part of my PC gaming life. It's probably the game I've dedicated more time to in my entire PC backlog. I don't think there's a single one that comes close, maybe other than Rome Total War. So when I talk about StarCraft, like this is a game that is I didn't play it for a long period of time afterwards, but it is ingrained in my mind. And even after I got a PC again, when I could join the Navy and I was finally able to get a computer that could with a CD drive, which was common like back in 2005, 2006, I actually went out and bought a copy of StarCraft just so I could play it on my local computer. So is this a game very important to me and near and dear to my heart? Oh, absolutely. I love this game. 100%.
Yet again, I can't imagine how this is going to turn out.
Yeah, no. I have absolutely no idea. It's really just I keep thinking about it. Like, oh, what are we going to say about the game?
Do we have rose tinted glasses? No, you never know. I guess that brings us to you, Soha. What's your personal background with StarCraft? Because you already said that you spent a lot of time getting into it and you were playing it a lot.
Yeah, my history with StarCraft is more regarding StarCraft 2.
Oh.
Well, you see, back in 1998, I was a little bit busy shitting my diapers.
It's kind of hard to play PC games when you're shitting your diapers.
That's fine. I don't feel old at all.
It's a little bit difficult to play PC games like that. So I don't really have much of an experience with StarCraft 1. My experience is a lot more with StarCraft 2. It's pretty much I got it when I managed to get my first like gaming PC. I've had PCs at my house before that, but too busy playing Ragnarok online. You can learn about all this stuff listening to Growing Up Gaming Brazil, only on Patreon for now. And
quick plug.
Yeah,
shameless, love it. Thank you.
I didn't really know StarCraft existed, bar one time. For some reason, I have no idea about the most random stuff I can remember. But back when I was like 8 years old, I think, I used to take English classes, right? Particular English class. Well, how can I explain this to people that speak English? Well, how it works is like this. Here in Brazil, and probably many other countries that don't speak English natively, we have these private schools that teach English because, wow, knowing English is great. You can have a second language and all that stuff. And, learning English through school itself wasn't really good. Even for me that grew up with a private school, and people can call me a bougie and something like that. Sure, go ahead. I grew up on a private school.
Did you have 3 consoles on Christmas?
Actually,
yeah, I was going to say, I wouldn't worry about it too much because you know what? This episode actually is just further building upon Chris's like bougie origin story. Because like not only did he have a 3 console Christmas, but he's like, yeah. And then, like the friend that I went over to every Friday, who's basically like my second family, they had 3 PCs in their house. I'm like, what the fuck? What silver spoon ass kind of childhood did this man have?
Not in their house in one room. I think they had another one somewhere else.
Yeah, no, of course they did. Yeah, why not?
Well, I might have not had 3 consoles for Christmas, but I did have a Game Boy Advance. It was pretty cool. And not many games for it, though. Not many games.
I'm sorry, I ruined your English learning experience story.
Yeah. Where was I?
He's like, yes, you did. Yes. Actually.
I was calling me a bougie, right? So we have this in private schools. We didn't. It wasn't really good to learn English, even on private schools. So we went to these English private schools, like exclusively for English, and we would just learn all the stuff there. The one I went in had these computer laboratory, just a lot of computers there for some reason, and I think it was pretty much for the kids to just pass time if their parents left them there to rot or something like that. I do remember that it had a PlayStation 2, you know, the fat one, and people would just play Street Fighter 2 EX all the time, and it was a lot of fun. God, that game was so good. Anyway, I'm derailing. Hold on. So back to StarCraft. So there was all these computers, and I remember that one of them had StarCraft installed. One time I booted the game up, I got to the campaign screen and was select your episode, and I played Boot Camp, the very first Terran mission, and then I had to leave and never again.
Wow, okay.
But it did leave an impression on me because for some reason I remember this out of all the things that happened at this time. And I'm just like, yeah, I managed to learn English. Oh, very cool. But there was that one time I booted StarCraft for like 20 minutes. Oh, I remember that a lot. Oh, that shit was so cool, man.
That's what sticks with you is boot camp.
I say that's the review from Soha on StarCraft. 20 minutes of StarCraft better than learning English.
You know, it really is like that. English doesn't serve me anything. What do I use it for today? I mean,
I have no idea.
I have absolutely no idea. StarCraft, though, man, you can't get a professional career with that if you're Korean.
I was gonna say, just move to South Korea.
Other than that, I played a lot of StarCraft 2. Maybe we could leave that for some other time, but still, StarCraft 2 made me learn a lot of things about StarCraft in general and made me interested in what people really liked on StarCraft 1. It was a blast just watching the pro plays from Flash doing his legendary Goliath micro with the drop ship and just dancing on some dude's face with 20,000 APM and all that stuff. Oh yeah, it's amazing. I miss you, Flash. Come on.
I love that story, even though it really amounts to I love StarCraft 2. But I guess it's not too far off.
Yeah.
So we all have a deep connection with at least the series. We all were attached to StarCraft in some form or fashion. All these interesting stories, I guess that means it's time to talk about this game's plot and whether or not what we think about the plot today. So how about you kick this off and let us know what you think, because this is kind of your first time playing the full game. So how did you experience it? How did you take it all?
Well, at first I was like, okay, yeah, it pretty much is as if I were just thrown into a universe that I know nothing about. Oh yeah, this is Jim Raynor, and he is a Terran rebel that doesn't like the Confederacy, which, by the way, really? But
I never put those two together, but yeah.
You kind of start to realize when you see the flags, and you're like, oh, okay then. So he's on this Terran colony of Marsara in this Terran region in whatever system they are in, and they are being invaded by the Zerg, and the Terrans they have a beef with the Confederates leader at this place, which is the Duke something something. And it's like they just keep throwing names, and I'm like, I have no fucking idea what's going on or who is who. I just know that I'm controlling this little guy over here, and he goes, give me something to shoot. And I'm like, yeah, man, that's what I'm talking about.
Fired up. I said it already. Damn it.
But after playing it a little bit, and, with previous knowledge from the future, I suppose, because my knowledge from a lot of the story comes from StarCraft 2, I started piecing things together, and the story is really, it's pretty good. It's very simplistic if you think about it, but it does its job quite nicely. I think there are some things that I noted down here that don't really make much sense or are just not really well developed one of the examples, at least for the Terran campaign, is that Raynor finds Kerrigan in some place. I don't exactly remember where they were. And, Kerrigan reads Jim's mind, and he's probably thinking on Kerrigan, sucking his dick or something like that. And she goes like, yeah, you
Most likely
pig.
scenario.
Yeah. And she goes like, you pig. And it's pretty much they fall in love right then and there. It's like, okay.
Of course. That's how it works.
Yeah, apparently. I just gotta find a mind-reading red-haired girl that is just go like, okay, I don't see anything wrong with you picturing me like that.
Wonder what everyone else was thinking then, because she only calls him out.
Yeah, true, right? Maybe they just didn't have much interest in Kerrigan, which
it's possible.
Well, we can get about that when we talk about the graphics, but
oh God.
but the story is really simple. I like the key moments. Like for example, I like how there is this whole thing about the rebels throwing over the Confederacy, but actually everything is a plot from Manx to take over the Dominion and make his own empire and stuff like that. And he left Kerrigan to rot back at, what was it again?
Tarsonis.
Yes, it was Tarsonis. Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Damn.
He left her there to rot in Tarsonis, and the Zerg capture her. And then she eventually turns into the Queen of Blades. And everything has this continuity, which is pretty nice. The whole build-up for the Zerg just taking over everything, the Terrans just shooting themselves in the foot, which, by the way, every single cutscene that has a Terran in it is just absolutely hilarious in some way or another, because for some reason Blizzard thought it was the greatest idea to make every single Terran some kind of redneck hillbilly.
Yep.
Yes.
and it's just amazing. The one cutscene, I want to see if you guys remember it, the one cutscene from that bomb squad inside the Amerigo.
Yeah, where they bring out the beer and the cigar. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, cold fishing is so great. It's something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, you guys just stride in a science vessel infested with Zerg. And the first thing you do is like, oh, let me crack open a cold one here with the boys, because that's what being a human's all about.
As someone in the military, that's not too far removed from reality.
Actually kind of accurate. Yeah.
Yeah. I could totally see that happen. We've talked about doing it ourselves. So.
I mean, you also kind of have to remember to some degree, right, that our Australian listeners are going to love this one, but effectively all of the humans in the colonies are basically space Australia. It's really what it is, because like the Earth basically told all of the criminals and like the cybernetically enhanced people and like genetic mutants to fuck off and go colonize somewhere else in the galaxy. So all of the Terran colonies that you see, it is literally space Australia.
Makes sense why they labeled them the Confederacy.
Right.
Even though I think it was too on the nose, if I'm being honest. Like, why is the Confederate?
Okay. I mean,
maybe
listen,
not 1998. I could. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wasn't going to defend it. Actually,
I'm not defending it.
I was just going to say, listen, Chris Metzen, I love the guy and I love what he did. He almost, I won't say single-handedly because that's not true, but he was a huge influence in the story and the lore of not only StarCraft, but also Warcraft and Diablo. And I like what he's did, but they weren't necessarily like high literature. Let's just say that.
No. I mean, Soha already said it's fairly simple. Like for me, you're naming all these locations. Like there's a plot, and the plot's not horrible. Like the plot's actually pretty good in terms of like how things develop. There's a little too many twists and turns for my taste. Like every 3 battles, someone's betraying somebody because that's what they do. It feels just organic, though. And I mean, ultimately, it's just a MacGuffin to get you to fight a certain battle or a certain race. Like, oh, you're going to be fighting the Terran. Why are you fighting the Terran? I don't know. Here's a reason. So you as Terran can fight Terran. Oh, here's a reason as you as Terran can fight Zerg. Now here's a reason that you as Terran can fight Protoss. And you start learning all these things. That's all it is. It's just a means to an end. So you can have an excuse to fight a different race and learn tactics against it, because that's ultimately what the campaign really is, right? It's to try and teach you how to play the game as the specific races. But I mean, the story's not terrible. And
I mean,
it's not,
I feel like maybe
I just couldn't care less about it.
I just feel like that's a little reductive. Like, I don't, it's not the best plot in the world, but at the same time, this was still kind of before a time where games just sort of had like a perfunctory, like, you know, campaign mode just to say they had one. And it's like purely in service of the multiplayer.
You're right.
I don't think that's true here.
But I still think ultimately it was to teach you how to play as these characters. I think by this point,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But I think the story, like you said, is still, it was organically written in such a way that, like, I never thought that the plot felt forced in a way like where it was very obvious that they're like, we wrote this thing to happen specifically because we want to teach you what Zerg do. Like, I
get that.
Yeah.
So I was oversimplifying. You're right. Like it's not the key focus of the story, but it does what it is what the story does.
Sure.
Effectively, that's what it does.
Right.
But like overall, like in terms of do I care about the story? And I'm not trying to take away from the way it was told. You're right. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's not high literature, as you said. Right. It's not thought provoking, but I couldn't care less because kind of the way it was told. And I understand this is more of a problem towards RTSs in general because Red Alert does the same thing, or any, you know, Command and Conquer game at that time. And I have no idea what Age of Empires does. Yeah, throttle me. I don't care for Age of Empires. I've played it. Wasn't bad. Like if you have this big kind of dialogue dump at the beginning of a match, and then you have kind of like these single lines at the beginning of a map, and then like you're playing for an entire hour with nothing but you just building a base. So your entire focus now is not even focused on the plot. It's how do I survive and how do I kill the enemy? And then once you're done, all of a sudden more exposition.
Yeah.
And for me, that just kind of, okay, there's a story here and I know what's going on. I understand it, but I really couldn't care less about it because I just want to blow shit up. It's cool info and it's nice lore. And it's not like I totally don't care about it, even though I just said I didn't, but it's not like anything I'm carrying with me beyond it. I'm more focused on the actual gameplay, on what my tactics are, what were my strengths and weaknesses, and how I can employ that on the next map, because it's probably going to be more difficult and have more bullshit to throw my way, if that makes sense.
It does. I think your approach to it is kind of the polar opposite of mine, in that the plot, while it's not anything mind blowing,
right,
it was written well enough that was the reason that I was motivated to actually get through the entire campaign of the game, even back in the day when it first came out. Because as I said, like, I'm just not a huge RTS guy. Like, I don't like the idea of basically having to start over every single fucking map. Like, that's part of the reason that I like RPGs, is because I like the feeling of constant progression. And in a game where, it's also why I don't like MOBAs. I also just don't like MOBAs for several other reasons, but that's part of it, is because like I don't like feeling like I'm going back to absolute zero every time. And so the exposition in between that basically served to sort of knit all of these, you know, standalone missions together in a sensible way, that's really what kept me personally going. And at the time, given that, we were like, I don't know, 13 or whatever, like,
right,
this was not fantastic storytelling, you know, or whatever, but like, it's basically like action movie level plot. And for me, as a 13-year-old, that's like, it was perfect.
Yeah, it does.
You know what I mean?
It does work.
It's exactly what I wanted. And so I actually got, I think, a lot more involved in the plot and the characters than it sounds like you did. And the funny thing about it too, and if you're a fan of Blizzard games from that era, then you probably know this, but it becomes very obvious that Metzen totally has one kind of story and he just keeps telling it just in like slightly different ways. Like every single major Blizzard IP, especially StarCraft and Warcraft, centers around the same thing of like, this good character turning absolutely bad and then everybody having to deal with that. It's fucking Illidan. It's the Lich King. It's Kerrigan. It's the same story over and over again.
Similar sounding names, Illidan, Kerrigan. Oh, shocker.
No, but you don't get it. Queen of Bleach is gonna save everyone. No, come on.
Yeah, that came later.
Yeah.
I don't think that was part of the original plot.
That's almost a retcon as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. There is a lot of things about the plot. Like you said, I'm kind of in the middle between you guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of things that you can get really interested in if you are in the right situation to just be like, yeah, I really like this. This is really interesting. I want to see where this goes. I want to see how this character ends up or where their motivations and whatnot. Like I said, I like the story. I just have a bit of a problem with it, how it's spaced. Like, of course, you only have 10 missions per episode to play, so they can't. And most of the time, you're just building your base, and sometimes someone talks to you, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And there really isn't that much time for them to actually develop anything. Even cutscenes in particular are quite infrequent. So, yeah, like pacing problems, I noted down here something like in one mission, and like in the last 2 Terran missions, you leave Kerrigan to die. Then in the next mission, you gotta just take out the ion cannon from the Confederacy. And after you do that, wow, Manx is already Emperor. It's like, oh, okay, so that happened. He's in the middle of butt fucking nowhere, I guess. And actually, I think it still is in Tarsonis.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, everything happens instantly, pretty much. And so it's kind of jarring.
Yeah.
But still, I get the point. So I don't really mind it that much. But can I just say one thing? Can I just say how?
No.
Okay.
You've been saying
okay. I won't say
You've
it.
said a couple things.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
The Protoss story kind of bad.
Yeah.
Protoss story kind of sucks.
It sucks.
Because the finale.
You talk to the Dark Templars. You can't talk to them. We're going to arrest you. Okay, you can arrest me. All right, we've arrested you. All right, well, you have to save us. Okay, but you're a traitor. I am not a traitor. You are. No, I'm not. We're dead. I will save you.
There you go.
Yeah.
There's the Protoss story.
The finale is incredible. The finale kind of pays off the whole Protoss story. But I literally wrote this. So Aldaris won't shut the fuck up about how our pride, our religion, you're a traitor. You used the dark energy to kill a cerebrate. We tried that and it didn't work. It's like, bro, your planet has been taken over by the fucking Overmind. Can you just stop trying to arrest Tassadar for being a traitor for like 2 seconds and try to listen to the people that have already been able to take down the fucking Cerebrate? You fucking donkey! Jesus Christ!
Hashtag Tassadar did nothing wrong.
It's bad.
It does kind of the plot kind of fizzles a little bit in the 3rd act. I will tend to agree.
And the Zerg's the best.
Yeah, it really is. But I mean,
always.
Yeah, but I mean, I will agree with Soha that I think the ending was pretty cool. I'm not sure that it makes up for kind of having to slog through the rest of the Protoss campaign, but it was still pretty neat.
That is and it's the toughest one.
Yeah.
So not only like is the plot like mid, but the difficulty really ramps up. So it's like, you know what pisses me off about the characters a little bit is I think this is why I don't get like super attached to the characters, especially now. I think I was more attached to the characters when I was younger, playing it when I was younger.
Right.
I don't use them because if they die, it's game over.
Oh, yeah.
So like what I'll do is like, oh, you got these characters that you're supposed to like and know. And instead of like throwing them into the fray and making them significant, I like put them in a corner where they can't get touched.
Yeah.
Because please don't destroy me.
Right. No, I mean, and that's a good point. And I did the same exact thing.
Mm-hmm.
Going back and replaying this again, I went and, tried to just throw like Raynor and Kerrigan into the midst with like my other units. And I was just like, oh yeah, this is a bad fucking idea. I shouldn't do that. So, I mean, that's something that Blizzard addressed like later on with like Warcraft 3 having like hero units.
Yeah, with heroes. Yeah.
But no, I mean, I think that's a valid criticism. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, overall, I actually really enjoy the plot of the game. I think at the time, some of the twists and stuff were cool. Having, even though we found out later that it was kind of just his one hit wonder go-to story plot line, I still thought that, Kerrigan becoming, the Queen of Blades and getting, kind of revenge on douchebag Manx there because he's a total jackass. Thought that was kind of cool. I was, in a way, I was also like the edgy 13-year-old that was definitely just rooting for the Zerg the whole time anyway. So, I mean, whatever. But I mean,
I wasn't rooting for them,
fair, I probably still do that.
Yeah, they're the most fun. So I would kill everyone with the Zerg and not really care what happens.
Zerg rush, baby.
Yeah, Zerg rush.
That's a great time to talk about this game's gameplay and how you apply everything. I'm going to kick this one off and just say this is the greatest RTS ever made. So it's fantastic. This has nothing to do with whether or not this holds up today, as we've already said.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, definitely not.
Definitely not.
Definitely.
The fact that you have 3 wildly different races, and that's what you said, Zerg Rush. Like you can't do that with Terran or Protoss. I mean, there's a way to do it that you can build up your units that way, but like every single race has a different strategy. Every single race has a different way you need to approach it. And you kind of had that with Warcraft 2. You kind of had that with the Command and Conquer series up until that point. But this is what was shocking, too, about the brief history and doing some research, is that the critics didn't think it was particularly revolutionary. And as a baseline, that's technically correct. But the way it spiced it up, and because it was essentially up to that point, as far as I remember, like when I was that age and even kind of looking back, when you had 2 different units, like in Warcraft 2, orcs and humans, they were essentially palette swaps of each other and what they could do. And it was kind of the same with Command and Conquer. I think Command and Conquer had slight differences between like the Nod and the Alliance or whatever it was. But essentially they were all the same. And this is like so varied. Like, I think that's the key takeaway from StarCraft, and what makes it so special and so unique is that the units themselves for every single race have so many different strengths and so many different advantages, but they're kind of are equivalents on the other races, but they function in entirely different ways. So knowing how to prepare yourself and come up with a good strategy, especially in the campaign mode where the enemy base is already built up to kind of fuck you.
Yeah.
And figure out a way to do that. You have to think of different strategies for each race in that situation, and then different strategies if you happen to play against other people, because that does vary up the way that you approach the game. And I think it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, like, I think I get what they're saying in that I don't think StarCraft does anything truly revolutionary, as we kind of said in the brief history, but I kind of view it as like the FF9 of RTSs, in that it's really just like the refinement of a formula.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And yeah, like, I think you're right. Like having the different races, having 3 different ones that all play, look, and function very differently was not something that we had up until that point. And I can only imagine that part of that has to just do with, I'm sure, what a nightmare balancing all of the factions ends up being, to like make sure that, in competitive play, that they're roughly equivalent. That's an ongoing battle, but
sure.
But yeah, no, I would tend to agree. And especially as someone who's not an RTS person at all, the fact that I put so much time into this game says a lot. Like, and it does have that, what, came to be known as like that Blizzard polish, in that everything is just so well done. Everything works so smoothly. There's really not a lot to call out from like a gameplay mechanics perspective that's egregiously bad or anything. There's probably little nitpicks here and there. I mean, I will say one of the things that is a absolute positive right out the get is the ability to have control groups, as I refer to them as, but having the ability to group up units and then doing the hotkey combo of like control and a number and assigning a hotkey number to a group, that functionality is huge at the time. And it makes for play so much easier because you can just like group up all your Marines in one group and assign them to a single hotkey, have all of your, Goliaths in another one or something. And then as you're moving down the map to take out the enemy base, you just quick hot swap with number keys. And it's so fast and intuitive. It works so well.
Yeah, there's a limit of 12 units that feels very limiting when trying to control a lot of things at once.
I agree.
Yeah, like with me coming from StarCraft 2 and there isn't such a limit, it does feel very, very mouse intensive sometimes to be able to attack whatever thing you want to attack. Actually, a lot of times I've really found myself just leaving some units around the map that I forgot to control properly because my selection already had 12 units. So those didn't get selected and they ended up just staying there. It's like, okay, I left that zealot back there. Okay, so there's that Marine back there. Okay, maybe he's gonna die eventually. I don't know. So that happens. The control groups are really good. Having the map hotkeys is really nice as well. It's just that this game is very, very mouse intensive, especially because for you to make units, especially considering Terran and Protoss, you need to select each individual building and make your units. Yeah, sometimes you gotta do that fast, and if you're not fast enough with the mouse with selecting the buildings you want to make the units you want to, you might be losing a little bit of time. I think that might be particularly more aggravating in multiplayer battles. But yeah,
gotta get that APM up, bro.
Yeah, the APM sure has to go a lot up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I could see that as a criticism. I'm not sure that I necessarily agree. I
mean, that's really high level play when you start getting into that kind of stuff.
It is, and you're right. So like the game is very click intensive for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, younger me and my supple young wrists didn't give a shit. Now probably not so much, but
yeah, they're very developed now.
Yes. Yeah, they're just dying slowly. No, I
thought they were all that stroking.
Oh yeah. Just jacked. No pun intended. Or is it?
Like Soha.
Yeah,
that's
exactly
right.
Like me.
But no, I don't know.
Reasons.
I didn't really see it as much of an issue, honestly. Like, and that's partially that's just because I'm accustomed to it, right? So coming into it, not necessarily having that preconceived knowledge, I suppose, probably makes a difference. Especially coming in from StarCraft 2, the grouping thing I could totally see. But at the time, that wasn't, I don't even think that's anything anybody talked about. Like the limit was not necessarily even an issue to anybody. I never really saw it that way either. And truth be told, I think most of, at least in the campaign, it's a little bit of a different ball game when you go into multiplayer matches, but at least as the campaign is concerned, I never really came across too many scenarios where I needed so many units that like the 12 unit per group restriction was really that problematic. So usually you could do pretty well with, I don't know, I think I usually had 5 to 6 control groups, like at most. And then with things like, the Terran dropships and stuff like that, you can get some mobility going pretty easily.
Yeah, not the Protoss dropships. Fuck those.
Yeah, well, I never liked playing as Protoss, but
yeah, I don't anymore either.
If I'm not mistaken, and I don't think this was a StarCraft 2 thing, I forgot to try it when I was playing this, but I want to say I think you can assign buildings to control groups too. So like,
yeah, you can.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So I mean, you could like group, if you have like 2 barracks or something, you could just assign that to a control group and then just hotkey and then just spam build a bunch of guys or whatever. So
well, the thing is that you can only select one building at once. You cannot select multiple buildings. So you can only have one building assigned to a control group. So the best you can do is select it from there you can press it twice to have the camera centered on it, and the other ones are probably going to be around. So that is one way to have your production up like that.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. You know what's wild about that, though? You were talking about how this game is super click intensive, which it is. The fucking wild thing about that is the N64 port of this game.
That was reviewed well.
It did.
Reviewed really well.
It did. Like, I think they actually did a pretty decent job porting the game over and getting the control scheme to work. I was and still am shocked that I think it works as well as it does. But then again, I guess Blizzard already had a little bit of a track record of doing that because the Diablo 1 port to the PlayStation is actually really good. So
yeah, the Warcraft 2 port to the PlayStation and the Saturn is supposed to be pretty decent too.
Yeah.
Hey, you can have 18 units in the 64 version. Just saying.
Shit. Well, there you go. Superior version.
There it is.
If only it used the mouse. I think that is a real valid criticism, not to stay on this issue too long, but because if you reflect on Command and Conquer and what that was doing at the time, you could select like massive amounts of units in comparison. I think that's one thing when I first played Command and Conquer, how it compared to StarCraft or Warcraft and how limiting StarCraft and Warcraft felt in comparison to unit selection in Command and Conquer and how freeing it was at that aspect. I still don't think Command and Conquer is a better series, but that is one aspect I do appreciate more about Command and Conquer. And just having to fill up, like, I don't want 3, 4, 5, 6 different control groups when I'm about to raid an enemy base. And those control groups I just watch dwindle down. And then I have to regroup all these control groups because now I might have 6 control groups, but now I have like 7 in one, 5 in another, 12 in another, 3 in another. That just, it becomes a little bit irritating when trying to just do things the most efficient and effective way, when if it's just like, hey, if you can select over like 30 or 50 of these, that would have been a lot better. Now I understand also the units in StarCraft are far more better developed than they are in like Command and Conquer. Like, we're little tiny units and these are like fully animated things. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Not a clue, but I do understand that like that aspect of the gameplay is slightly different.
Well, I think part of it just has to do with there's a difference in approach. I think like StarCraft and Warcraft, the intended approach there is to not necessarily have a 50 unit army or something. It's the units themselves are individually more effective and meaningful than having just like a swath of soldiers in Command and Conquer. And neither approach is bad.
Oh yeah,
it's just, well, okay, if you're gonna say Zerg, Soha, like I know.
No, I'm saying tell that to my Marine army that just got absolutely obliterated by one Reaver. Tell me how that's strong, please.
I mean, I didn't say that they were always strong against everything. I mean, that was something I was going to bring up too in a second. But I think that it's a difference in design philosophies, and neither one is necessarily good or bad. It's just a different approach, I think. And as far as the differences in the units go there, one of the things that I think a lot of people a little later down the line tended to point out with StarCraft specifically is that even though there is this varied, selection of units from the different races, it got metagamed to the point where, there was a very clear sort of like almost rock, paper, scissor thing happening where, you could figure out like, well, these units very clearly are a hard counter to these and these hard counter these. And again, that's talking slightly more like high level play for your like casual StarCraft experience. That's not necessarily going to matter quite as much, but it is an interesting thing to note that like from the outset, there was this discussion of like, oh, this is great. Like there's all this variety and there's so many different options and this is fantastic. And then eventually over time, it kind of devolved into like, well, clearly this unit is a counter to this. And it's so like obvious, So I guess that's the eventual fate of any game that kind of gets metagamed to death.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, there's going to be that certain way that the game is trying to teach you how to play it.
Yeah.
And yeah, StarCraft does do that almost to a flaw. So I was saying, like, you go in and try to attack the Protoss with your massive Marine unit and just a Reaver wipes out all of them. And somehow the computer knows exactly.
All your own tanks.
Yeah. And the computer exactly knows how to deploy those Reavers in exactly the right spots in exactly the right time for your Marine units to get there. This is kind of a big criticism I do have towards the campaign mode, because this is primarily what we're talking about. And it's kind of alludes to something earlier. The enemy's base is already built up, and you're going to get attacked at intervals. So you do have to build up some of your base units. You just can't like try to quickly build up to like a starport or just try to get like straight mutalisks to raid or battleships. Like you're going to have some balance out. So like you'll try to build up some Marines, and then like you'll have some Marines out there just to have some basic defense. And here comes a Reaver to blow the shit out of you. It's like, okay, well, great. I don't have anything to necessarily counter that. I'm just going to have to keep throwing bodies at this while I try to develop the resources in order to get the units that can effectively counter it.
Right.
Like that's a problem I did kind of have with the campaign mode. And especially in the later ones, how the computer just magically knows how to put that the radar sweep, if you ever cloak any units, in the precisely right spot.
Yeah.
Or they have the exact correct units to go there in like the Protoss campaign and just put send an arbiter there to just completely freeze all of your robotic units without discrimination.
Arbiters, man, they work.
And they always have, the right amount of arbiters in the right position at the right time without fail, 100% of the time. And that's fucking infuriating because the game doesn't do a very good job of intuitively telling you how to do a lot of the more high level stuff like the control groups or how to effectively counter these things. They just kind of throw you in there and be like, hey, this is something the enemy can do. Go figure it out. It's like, well, I have the most powerful unit in the game. And the game's like, ha ha ha, we don't care. You're going to have to figure this out, which can be a strength or a weakness depending on your taste in gaming. And I got infuriated by those fucking arbiters. It pissed me the fuck off. I was power overwhelming the fuck out of that enemy before long. I did not care anymore. Which is a cheat, by the way, if you've never played this game. But
yeah,
I'm gonna say it felt really fucking good when I managed to get my hands on those arbiters and was like, okay, who's getting frozen now, bitch? Take this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like I'm the one like playing defense, but so okay, not that it's necessarily a good answer, but especially with a lot of games that we tend to talk about on the show, it also kind of applies here, and that is things like the control groups and stuff like that. It's in the instruction manual. So, I mean,
the one that's like probably like 200 pages.
Actually, no, it's actually not that big.
No,
but no, it's in there. So, I mean, and you have to remember that was not unusual. All games came with instruction manuals at this time. So, I mean, you would know that,
especially PC games.
There's actually, they do tell you in the help button if you press F10 and H, I think. And it does tell you the controls there, at least in the remastered version.
The options.
Yes, yes. You gotta raise your APM even at the menus. Okay,
they're just training you through doing.
Yeah,
the game's paused. How do you know the hotkeys?
Because
I think it tells you.
Yeah, actually, it does highlight. It does tell you there. It does tell you about the control groups. It tells you about the camera hotkeys and all that. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Doesn't tell you what it does. It just tells you how to activate it.
Well, I suppose you eventually figure it out.
Oh, of course. And really quick, while we're discussing hotkeys here, that's a minor gripe I got is why isn't the menu escape? Every other game is escape. Why do I have to press F10? I kept on pressing escape to bring up the menu and the game kept telling me no. To one point where I had the menu open and then I pressed escape to close the menu and instead it kicked me out of the map. And I was very upset.
I actually have no idea. Actually, it's probably because escape cancels your current selection.
I think that's just a relic of mid to late 90s PC design. I think that's what that is.
Yeah, probably. It is kind of out of the way, so it makes sense that the button to pause the game is going to be far away, I suppose.
I think the funny thing about that is I think they actually changed that in the remaster because escape totally brings up the menu.
Really?
Yeah, so they recognize that it was a flaw. Thank you. Thank you,
I'm so used to F10, I never tried escape, so I have no idea.
Well, I wasn't.
I just have one thing to say. Like, if we're a little bit of more criticism about the gameplay. Some minor things like...
fuck this game.
Yeah, this game sucks. It's all about the pathfinding kind of janky. The units bounce into themselves a lot. They kind of get stuck in things really easily, which is fine, I suppose. I think the maps feel a little bit cramped in relation to where you can build stuff, especially because there are some places where they just go like, you can build here, but it's like it's perfect ground. Yeah, nah, you can't. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Your supply depot is like gigantic, but you don't really have that much space to build it in. But these are just minor things, apart from the AI being absolutely cracked with the sweeps and knowing exactly where to sweep. And the moment when you have a nuclear launch onto their asses and they're like, okay, so here's your goal, so we're gonna kill it in 30 seconds from now. There is one thing in particular that it has my biggest gripe with the campaign in general. And it's just that they usually don't give you nearly enough things right away to have a quick start. It's like, here's the new mission. You have 4 workers to start mining, maybe 500 minerals, not nearly enough buildings, and like an army of 10 units. So you're going like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and try to advance and scout around the bases and whatnot. Oh, they're all protected, heavily protected, in fact. Oh, I almost lost my whole army. Good. So I guess I'm gonna turn around my base for 20 minutes while I build my resources, which, by the way, they're limited. So I need to go for other places to look for stuff. Oh, which reminds me of the last mission? Yeah, the last Zerg mission. It was bullshit. Because...
Really?
Yes. Let me tell you how it went. For people to know, the last Zerg mission is the one where you are already invading Aiur and you need to destroy the temple, the Zelnaga temple, for the overmine to take place. And you're going to have total control of Aiur. I was like, okay, so it's heavily guarded. I'm having kind of a difficult time trying to go around and kill stuff, especially because I'm being constantly harassed by Protoss from the right and from the left. So fine, I take care of those pestering Protosses on my sides, and I try to focus on having stuff to go to attack the temple. However, there is not nearly enough gas in the starting place for you to make your heavy duty units. So I go around the map and I look for other geysers that I can use. And there's like 2 more geysers that you can use, and they only have like 1500 Vespene gas in them. So at this point, I'm like 40 minutes into the map, which thank God that you can save. Otherwise, it would really be a frustrating endeavor to fail a mission, which is not difficult to do, and have to restart it from the beginning. Because the worst part of every mission is the beginning. It's a slog.
Yeah.
But I get to this point, and I'm like, well, I'm not joking, 20,000 minerals and 1,000 gas. I think I'm gonna spam the fuck out of Zerglings and try to just get them to the temple. And it almost worked.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's the thing about Zerg. I agree with you to a point. And that what I find interesting that you use Zerg for an example, because the thing about Zerg is most of the time they give you enough minerals to build 2 hatcheries. And once you have 2 hatcheries, which is like your central focus point for everything, where you build up all your units, because they don't have, like you said, Terran and Protoss have individual buildings where you build your units. The Zergs, their main base builds the unit. And so they usually typically start you off with that. If you only focus on Mutalisks and Zerglings, you can pretty much beat any level as Zerg.
Yeah, I would actually agree with that. I mean, wait, Mutalisks or Hydralisks?
Mutalisks.
Okay, the flying ones.
All of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I was gonna say you could actually feasibly do a lot of it with just Hydralisks rather also, because if you upgraded Hydralisks are no joke.
No, they're no joke. But neither are upgraded Zerglings, because when you have the increased attack speed, increased speed, the fact that one resource only 2 of them only accounts for 1 resource, where opposed to Hydralisk is 1-to-1. So if you have your ground force bees, your Zerglings, this is why you have like the Zerg rush, is usually just a bunch of Zerglings coming in very early if they don't know how to defend themselves.
Right.
In addition to the Mutalisks, because you can upgrade them to Guardians, but Guardians fucking suck.
No, yeah.
Because they can't do air to air. So like, and you upgrade a fully upgraded Mutalisk is just disastrous because they have ricochet damage.
Dude,
So
yes.
it's just like,
I was gonna say that ricochet is clutch. It's so good.
Actually, Chris, not gonna lie, air siege units against ground it's pretty good. I liked it a lot, at least. Like, you could have...
It can be, yeah.
but you need to be meticulous in your planning.
True.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to think much with Mutalisks. You just get like 36 of those motherfuckers and then throw 48 Zerglings and that base is dead.
Well, you're giving me PTSD from my ladder matches in StarCraft 2.
Right.
One thing before we leave this gameplay alone is, what did you guys think of those? I call them escort missions. I don't know, like maybe character driven missions in the campaign. I fucking hated them, especially towards the later parts of it. Like towards the middle of it wasn't so bad, but as the game progressed, I did not like them at all. What did you guys think of them?
See, I actually really like those. That's why I said earlier, like when I was doing my custom maps, most of them were something like that. Because
They're
I thought
probably more balanced or custom maps.
Well, probably, yeah. But they were just, I thought that was a more interesting like use of the assets to me than just like kind of making, yet another empty map to do like just your regular base building on. Like, I liked the idea of having like a very specific group of units and building like this little sort of self-contained story almost that you can play through. So I actually liked those, and plus I thought they served to kind of break up the flow of the game in a good way. But I could totally see how someone could also absolutely hate those.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think,
I agree
Soha?
with Shane. I like them too. It's a nice change of pace from the normal missions, and it's you don't have to worry about anything. All you need to worry about is releasing your inner Korean and unleashing your heaviest.
My inner Korean.
Yes, don't take that in the wrong way, or take it however you want. I don't care. But you give your highest micromanagement on all your units and try to make the real objective having the least amount of them die in the end of the mission. I thought they were pretty cool. Which also reminds me of a thing of the hero units. At the Terran campaign, I was really thinking that Raynor was a little bit suicidal. So I was like, okay, Raynor, just stick back at base. But at Zerg and Protoss campaigns, I was just like, actually, they were pretty good. So I used them in the middle of the army, even if Phoenix was a little bit eager to die again.
So I guess like, hey, look, I think we all love the gameplay. I think we all appreciate the gameplay for what it is. It's fantastic. We have our criticisms. It's not perfect, which means we're not completely delusional, which is good, I think.
It's part of the mystery, we were trying to maintain the mystery.
Part of that mystery towards the end. Yeah, trying to maintain it.
Right, we got to keep you on your toes.
Yes.
You don't know what we're going to say.
Yeah.
We don't know how you'll see us if we don't remain neutral on these topics. But things that you can see and we want you to see are the graphics and its visual presentation. So, hey, how about Soha? What do you think about the graphics?
So you remember about the thing I was talking about Kerrigan? So
yeah, here we are.
Here we are. So Kerrigan, I actually didn't play enough of Brood War to know if they changed it there, because there's one really cool thing about StarCraft Remastered is that you can switch between the old and new graphics, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I was doing that constantly just to see how it looked back then. And first of all, actually, before I begin talking about Kerrigan, there's just this incredible thing about how a really amazing art direction can just make a game look timeless.
Mm-hmm.
This game with the old graphics still looks amazing to this day, man.
Agreed. Yep.
There's no way around it. It's just that good. The sprite work for the units and the 3D animation for the portraits, maybe not so much, but the units themselves and the buildings and all that, it's really well done. Everything just pops out. You know exactly what you're looking at a moment's notice. And for a game from 1998, especially with that many things on screen, you go like, well, holy goddamn, that does look gorgeous.
I 100% fully agree. And this is one of those rare situations where I think the pre-rendered graphics aged well.
Yeah.
How often do you say that? Like, how often does that happen? Because I think Donkey Kong Country, I think I've said this before in the show, I think that game's aged like
I
ass
think you're full of
in
shit.
terms of the way it looks. Okay, well, you can think I'm full of shit all you want to. I think that game has aged like ass graphically. I think it still plays fine, but it does not look good. And a lot like Mortal Kombat does not look good. It is not a good looking game. StarCraft, it's still a good looking game. And I like the fact that you said sprites, because this game looks like it's sprite work, and it's not sprite work. That's how well they utilize the pre-rendered graphics in this game. It looks like it's a 32-bit game built from the ground up with sprites, and it's all pre-rendered. And that's insane.
Yeah.
How good it still looks today. I'm sure the remastered one looks better. I didn't play it.
It does.
But the fact that
it pretty much it looks the same, apart from them doing a bit of rework on some of the units' looks to look more like they do nowadays in StarCraft 2. But other than that, it's just pretty much the same, but in HD.
Yeah.
Well, I won't go down that path too far, but suffice to say, for the unit graphics, like the actual like game screen, that portion, it's the same effect, at least for me, that Ocarina of Time had with its HD remaster on the 3DS, in that it looks like what your brain thinks it looked like 25 years ago or whatever. And so it looks good, and it looks like what you remember StarCraft looking like. But yeah, when you hot swap between the graphics, you're just like, oh shit, right. But even the old graphics still hold up really well.
Okay.
But the thing that I had a hard time with this one, and that's just because I guess I have such a vested personal interest in like the OG StarCraft, but I really did not like the fact that they changed, like overhauled some of the unit portraits for the HD remaster.
They had charm.
They really did. And I kind of hate what they did with a lot of them. Some of them are fine, but I feel like they like genericized some of them, and I think it lost some of that charm. And it's also kind of, in a way, it's a little jarring too. And this is I'm talking about, this is a specific problem to the remaster, but it's a bit of a tangent. But they still have the OG cutscenes in the remaster. So you see the cutscenes with the character designs that they originally went with, which were pseudo realistic, but let's be real, like they're a little cartoony, like especially with some of the backwoods Terran. And
yeah,
you take that and then you like size that up against the new and air quotes improved unit portraits that you see during like a mission, and there's this like really weird dissonance between the two because they just don't like thematically match very well. So it's a little odd. What I'm saying is I like the original better.
I'm kind of looking at pictures for Kerrigan.
Yeah.
In the remaster, and I understand she technically looks better in the remaster, because like she looks kind of awkward and cartoony, as you said, in the original, but I think I prefer that cartoony look, man. I think I like that just really overdefined look in these character portraits. I don't know what it is, man. It has that charm. It really has that charm.
Yeah, I do agree. It does have that charm. And well, we managed to get back to Kerrigan, as I was saying.
I tried to.
yeah, thank you. It's what I was mentioning. Just in the remastered version, they completely changed Kerrigan. Kerrigan, and at least in the original StarCraft campaign, like I said, it looks like they changed her design when Brood War came out. But in your original one, Kerrigan does not look like, the Kerrigan I know from StarCraft 2, and neither does the Queen of Blades. It's completely different. And the remaster comes around and tries to, change it to the looks that she has now. And I don't know, man. I really don't know. Like, I love her design the way it is right now, but I don't think it's deserved, to be honest. Maybe they should have tried their best with what they had originally done, because that's how they envisioned her to be that way. And to be honest, she does look like, a human infested, a Zerg infested human. I don't want to know what a human infested Zerg is. Thank you very much.
That'd be interesting.
She does look like a Zerg infested woman. Kerrigan, Queen of Blades nowadays, she looks like if the Zerg attempted to replicate a human,
Yeah.
Mhm.
So there was all of that, and actually, I completely forgot where I was going with the Kerrigan thing in the beginning, but she just looks completely different, and that's the whole point that I wanted to come across anyway.
So I guess kind of circle back around and maybe wrap that one up. I think, at least for me, I definitely believe that the graphics hold up, I would say, surprisingly well. The pre-rendered cutscenes maybe a little less so, but honestly, that's expected. Like, as much as I have the nostalgia for them, it's the same deal with like the original Diablo. Like the cutscene at the beginning, I mean, it's still fucking badass, but like also it shows its age, and these definitely do that too.
Yeah, it was still new then.
But the in-game graphics and everything, though, they fall right into that same category as like a lot of the sprite-based games that we talk about, where those just tend to age much, much better than, polygonal graphics, especially the early ones. And I think this fits in there as well. So
The graphics also remind me of a game I used to play back when I was a teen. Dark Eden. It's one of those South Korean MMORPGs,
Shocker.
Yeah, I know, right? The graphics are really similar to StarCraft. When I started playing StarCraft for this episode and I switched back to the old graphics, I was like, oh, wow, this reminds me of that game a lot. And I know that in the end, I suppose that Dark Eden is supposed to be more like Diablo than anything else. And probably Diablo's graphics do look a little bit similar. I'm not sure. Maybe Shane knows how to respond to that.
to what, Dark Eden?
No, to StarCraft.
Well, I mean, Diablo came out a little bit before it, and it definitely has a different aesthetic going, but I think those kind of hold up pretty well in the same fashion as StarCraft does. I might also be a little biased, so.
Yes, but yeah, when I switched back to the old school graphics, it really just reminded me right away of that game of Dark Eden. I used to play that so much, and I was like, well, it does make sense, I guess. StarCraft's really popular on Korea, and South Korea making MMORPGs that look like StarCraft might not be that surprising after all.
True, yeah.
All right, let's move on to the sound design for the game. I'll just kick this off and say it's perfect.
It's fucking awesome.
Yes, it's incredible.
Yes.
Okay, next topic.
Music perfect. Music perfect, voice acting perfect, no flaws. Like zero flaws. Sounds of the weapons perfect. I love the siege tank sound. That's one of my favorite sounds, unless it's not me.
I love the missile sounds.
I love them. Is there anything wrong? It's so. You're almost right. So, we should just say it's perfect and move on, because I don't know what else to say.
I mean, there's a reason that we went into this episode just quoting a bunch of character portrait lines. Like, the sound design and direction of this game is fucking top notch. Like, there isn't a single thing, and I don't know if we've ever said this much about any other game we've talked about, because usually we can find something. I'm sure there's one or two, but
I can't think of any.
I can't think of anything I would pick out that I don't like. Everything in this game sounds great.
Yeah. All the music is different for every race, and it's perfect for that race.
Mm-hmm.
It is really good.
It's perfect.
I can say that Zerg and Protoss music didn't really make themselves really that memorable to me. I did notice that Zerg music has a synth in it that sounds a lot like the ones used in the soundtrack for Portal 2. And I was like, oh, okay, that does sound a lot like that. And it made me notice the music a little bit more. But man, Terran music It's just
yeah.
oh man, nah, that's how do you even compare the other two when you got Terran music just blasting that fanfare of heroism and whatnot, and it's just it's so amazing.
Yeah, I will say too that if there's any knock at all, is that this, like, I'm not rolling down the road ever listening to Zerg or Protoss music for the most part, right? But it doesn't take away from the fact that the way it was composed, it matches the atmosphere well enough that I'm not going to sit here and knock it. I think it goes perfectly with the kind of atmosphere they're trying to develop for the Zerg and the Protoss specifically. To that effect, like Terran, it works exactly perfect with Terran too. And when I think of StarCraft music, I do think of the Terran music.
Yeah.
Like right off the bat. That's what I think of, is kind of driving guitar, the way it's all put together. Yeah, that's the music that sticks with me. Not the Protoss or the Zerg music, but it still works.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why I say, like, I don't have any valid criticisms where anything doesn't work at any given point. Even the voice acting is on point. 100%.
Dude, even the menu sound effects are so fucking good. Like, when I haven't played StarCraft in at least 15 years, probably more. And so when I installed the HD remaster to kind of get a refresher before we started talking about this for this episode, as soon as I fired that up and I was clicking through the menus, it was like a warm blanket. I was just like, oh hell yes.
Time portal. Here we are. We're 15 in the year's 2023. Like whatever that meme is, but
that's right. I got my Mountain Dew and my Doritos.
Oh man, I don't want to have Doritos while playing StarCraft though. My keyboard might get a little messed up.
That's probably a good point. Yeah. You got to use that chopstick trick, man. You got to eat them with chopsticks.
True.
Well, then you might not get that APM or whatever that means. But
maybe if you're fast enough,
it's gonna slow you down.
Maybe that's a skill issue, Chris.
It sounds like a skill issue, honestly.
Skill issue.
Yeah.
Skill issue.
Yeah.
As
Definitely.
the Generation Zeds would say.
All right, so the game's sound and music is perfect. I think that's what we're going with.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love it.
Man, the quotes, man. Somebody called for exterminator. Shit, man. I didn't even use ghosts that much. God damn. Come on.
Battle cruiser operational.
Oh yeah, the fart sounds from the Zerg too. That those are amazing.
Those are pretty good.
They sound like bugs. They sound like bugs.
They sure do.
As they should. Yeah. Before we decide we're going to go into whether or not this game holds up today, we do have some miscellaneous information for all of you. Or should I specifically say Shane does? So Shane,
yes.
What miscellaneous information do you have for our dear listeners?
Well, I just wanted to point out, because it was sort of an interesting relic of this earlier era of Blizzard, in that was a time where they were totally cool with licensing their shit out to other dev houses to do something with.
Yeah.
Not so much now, unless we're talking about mobile games, but that's a different story. But anyway, so
I'll give you 10 cents for who they might be licensing it out to.
Yeah. But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of make a quick note that much like Diablo Hellfire, which was an authorized third-party expansion for the first Diablo game, StarCraft also got one of those done by Aztec New Media called StarCraft Insurrection. I actually owned this. Actually, I take that back. I own it. I'm looking at the big box right now. So definitely still have it. I think I picked it up at like a discount store somewhere when I was younger, but it was received okay. Most of the scores were pretty middle of the road, but it does feature 3 additional single player campaigns with 10 more missions each. It also included over 100 multiplayer maps. The campaign itself takes place during the timeline of the original game, but this one tends to focus on an insurrection, hence the name, that occurs against the Confederacy that's led by a splinter group known as the Fist of Redemption. And their goal, which is crazy fucking banana pants, is to merge the Terran and Zerg races. Just think about that one for a second and how that would even happen. The campaign itself for the Insurrection sort of authorized third-party expansion was way more difficult than the base game. Some people liked that, some people didn't, but just kind of an interesting little footnote. I'll probably include that in the eventual social media photo that we put out there, but I don't know how many people were aware that that like even existed, because even Hellfire for Diablo, a lot of people like didn't know that was a thing.
Well, I think I have a little piece of miscellaneous as well.
Okay.
All right.
We talked about how there was the custom maps for StarCrafts, right? One of the maps that were created for StarCrafts at the time is a little one called Aeon of Strife.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, many sources like to say that it was essentially the progenitor for Dota, Defense of the Ancients All-Stars. Well, the rest is history, right? The rest is just history on how Dota absolutely exploded in popularity when it was, made for Warcraft 3. And it's like, it's very interesting to know that its origins are back when StarCraft was a thing, and people were very interested in making their own maps for such a beloved game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that reminds me, and eventually we'll probably end up talking about it later on down the road, but that also reminds me of a custom map for Warcraft 3 that my friends and I played a lot, that was essentially like the template for World of Warcraft. Like someone actually, and this was not like an official thing, like someone made an MMO in Warcraft 3 that was basically like the proto World of Warcraft. And it was crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I love it when people are free to make stuff like this. And I don't love it when Blizzard goes around and tries to bring it back, but then says, okay, anything you do is our property. It's like, okay, then I won't.
Yeah.
That was the Warcraft 3 remastered shit that happened, right? That was
horrible.
horrible.
Well, there were a lot of reasons that was terrible, but yeah.
Oh, that was one of many.
Yeah.
Another story for another time.
Indeed.
But let's put a bow on the story of this episode and discuss whether or not this game holds up today, because I think everyone is in, just nervous anticipation as
definitely.
to whether they think what we think of this. Hey, Shane.
Yeah.
You kick this one off.
Okay.
And you let us know whether or not you think this game holds up today.
Fuck yes. What? Yes. Of course it does. StarCraft is fucking incredible. I don't even like real-time strategy games, and StarCraft is amazing. It is the best RTS ever made. I don't care what anybody else says. This was right in what I consider to be like peak golden era Blizzard. This was like StarCraft and Brood War, Diablo 2, like Warcraft 2, Warcraft 3, like this, it does not get better than this. And this is even, in my opinion, this is even being compared to the other like Warcraft games. I still think StarCraft is better. Like if you sat me down and you were like, would you rather play StarCraft or would you rather play like Warcraft 3, even with like Frozen Throne, I would still be like, nah, give me StarCraft. It's just good. It's that good. For them to come out and just nail it like they did, there is valid reasons for why, myself included, there were just a ton of just absolutely shameless Blizzard fanboys back in like the mid to late 90s, and this was one of the big reasons why. So if for some reason you have not played StarCraft and you have even a passing interest in strategy games like this, go play it. I mean, it's free, actually.
Free.
It's literally free now. Like you can just go to Blizzard's website and play StarCraft for free. Or if you want to get the HD upgrade, it's like, I think $10 or something.
Yeah, $10-15.
There's like no reason not to play this game. It's fantastic. And also, we didn't really talk about it much here, kind of on purpose, because that'd be a whole extra, like probably at least half hour.
At least.
But Brood War,
also free.
It is also free and also incredible. Like, and it adds a whole bunch of new shit to the game, like medics and all that stuff. And that's really the definitive experience at this point of StarCraft anyway. So go fucking play it. It's so good. It's so good. Was that a fair and balanced review, Chris?
I don't know, Shane. Maybe I'm gonna need a bit more excitement coming from you. I don't know.
No, I don't know. I don't know if I could do that. It's a lot.
Yeah, I've had to think about this a lot. It's been a very tough decision, but I think I already said that I too think that StarCraft is the best real-time strategy game ever created. And that's the thing I put in my notes, my personal notes here is the first thing it says that the simple fact that you can play the best RTS game ever made
for free
with its expansion pack for free is mind-blowing.
Yep.
And also multiplayer.
Yeah.
And with multiplayer, like let's say you don't like the campaign. Let's say that you don't want to play single player campaign stuff because you know what? I don't like those character driven or escort missions or whatever you want to call them. Playing with a friend. If you can find a way to play with a friend, which I don't think is that hard because you get the game for free with a BattleNet subscription, which means you can play online. So if you can find a friend that wants to play StarCraft with you and play co-op against the computer, you are going to have a great time. This game is like crack. You will probably be starting out saying, I don't know if I'm going to like this game. And then 8 hours later, you're going to be like, I don't know. And then look up the clock and say, oh, fuck. That's the kind of game that StarCraft is. It is fantastic. It is amazing. Like Shane said, any passing interest in a real-time strategy game, you need to go and play this if you have not already. And everyone that has and even likes RTS is going to tell you that this is an amazing game. They may not all say it's the best because I've heard a lot of people say like Age of Empires 2 or maybe some random Command and Conquer game. They're wrong.
It's okay for people
but
to be
they are
wrong.
entitled to the wrong opinion. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
They're entitled to the wrong opinion. They're people too, though, so don't be too harsh on them. But StarCraft, that's where it's at. 100% holds up today. It is amazing. Over to you, Soha. Break everybody's hearts and just say no.
Okay, well, I guess
Kidding.
it's time for me to say, fuck yeah, man, this is the shit. You know, I'm gonna be honest. I think we can pretty much say that nowadays the RTS genre isn't really that popular, or let's say dead, because how can you surpass this? They managed to make perfection back in 98, man. No one ever since has managed to even try to come close. You know, the people that have maybe watched the esports scene back in 2010 might get this reference, but Idra was fucking right, man. Idra was right. Every time he would say this game sucks back when playing StarCraft 2, I hate this game, something like that, is because StarCraft 1 is just better. Like I said, I started my StarCraft career, let's say it like so, with 2, and only for this episode, I got around to playing 1, and I've mulled over it so much, and there's just so many things that I can for sure say, man, StarCraft 1 just does it better. It just does it better. Even with the criticisms that I have with the gameplay being a little bit more obtuse, it's just better, man. There's just no way around it. Especially if I were to play multiplayer, because multiplayer is a whole different bag of beans when comparing StarCraft 1 with 2. 2 just decides to take half of the units away for some reason. Like, some of the units are in the game, and it's just like, oh, well, we're not giving them to multiplayer because balance, I guess. And the StarCraft 1 just goes like, well, okay, everything you use in a campaign, here it is. Have fun. So it's just, there's no comparison. StarCraft is the best RTS ever made, and it really it has killed the genre. It's unfortunately, isn't it? But like Chris said, it's free. Go play it. Jesus Christ, man. There's no reason not to.
You know, it's funny because I always attribute the death of the RTS genre largely to MOBAs, which is ironic in and of itself, given the genesis
StarCraft.
of Dota.
True.
Yeah.
But no, you're right. You know what? I'm changing my opinion on that. I mean, I still don't like MOBAs, but no, it's StarCraft. StarCraft, it burned so bright that, you know, just no one else could follow it up. Not even fucking Blizzard could follow up their own shit. So
It doesn't help when you release it in 3 parts. Either.
Yeah.
oh yeah, they
Again,
totally
different
Peter
story.
Jacksoned that shit where they're just like, okay, we could release 1 game, but what if we split it up and stretched it out to 3 games?
What?
Yeah, I'm looking at you,
What
Hobbit.
hubris.
Fuck off with that shit.
What fucking hubris.
Real quick, Heart of the Swarm was the best one campaign-wise. But multiplayer wise, it was Wings of Liberty all the way. That's it. That's all I have to say about that.
Okay.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. What's funny is, and if you want, not that you need any more convincing, I'm sure, but like if you want a comparison between these two experiences, I purchased Wings of Liberty and I played through that campaign, and I think I got halfway through Heart of the Swarm, and it's no fault of that particular releases at all. It's just I never got through the rest of it, and then I just could not be fucked to go and buy the third one and play through the rest of it. I just couldn't get the motivation to do it. So if you need a comparison, that's it right there. Like, I have played through StarCraft multiple times. I burned countless hours on it. And with the follow-up, I could not even be bothered to get through the whole campaign. So
I'm going to be real with you. I also didn't play the third one. To me, and actually when I was discussing with some friends about it, they have said that the story in StarCraft 2 wraps up in such a pathetic way that it just pretty much destroys the whole rest of the series that came before it.
Oh, cool.
So it's like, well, I'm really glad that I didn't get to experience the Legacy of the Void, because to me, everything wraps up really nicely with Heart of the Swarm. Well, there's honestly no reason. The whole Zelnaga and hybrid thing, who cares about that? Just invented stuff. No one cares.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's like if you were to go and retcon the the Lone Wanderer from the first two Diablo games, actually, and say like, oh, actually, he's not a nameless wanderer or the actual character you played in the first game, because that would actually be sensible continuity that we had already established. But instead, let's say his name is Aiden and he's the warrior from Diablo 1 because he needed a name like Aiden. And also he's the son of the witch from the first game, because that makes sense. God, fuck this retcon shit. Blizzard needs to leave their own shit alone. They're like fucking George Lucas. They go back and they futz with stuff that they don't need to mess with.
No.
What I'm saying is Diablo 3's story is trash.
Okay.
Well, he said it here.
Anyway, StarCraft, everyone.
Let's take this one out, Shane. And well, before we do that, I just want to say thank you so much to Soha for joining us for this episode. You were a great guest. We really do appreciate it.
Absolutely.
It was an honor. It was an honor.
Awesome. All right, Shane, let's wrap this one up.
Yeah, well, I mean, just as we usually do with our most esteemed guests, Soha, is there anything that you would like to put out to the people at home? Anything you want to plug?
I do some things. The thing is, they're mainly in Portuguese. There is one thing, however, that I do, that I try my best to make it in English as well, which is, how can I say, it's a video game analysis channel. It's called Origin Point.
Okay.
It's kind of hard to find on YouTube because YouTube really dislikes showing it on the search results. But if you look for channels, it's gonna be the one that has a cube with the arrow pointing up and pointing right, like it was a graphic. But yeah, it's there. I do some cool stuff about it. Like if I really like a game, I feel like talking about it for 3 hours. I just go and make a video on that. The next one, I'm still editing, but it's taking a little bit more than expected. But maybe this year we'll have it coming around.
Nice. Yeah. Well, we'll make sure that the link to that is in the show notes as well.
Yeah. Everything else, it's, well, if you speak Portuguese, you can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/Sohayo. The last O is actually a 0. And yeah, I don't know. You can always talk to me on Discord. Join the Discord, guys.
There you go. Speaking of Discord, we have one of those and it is public. You can just jump in and you can talk to us. You can talk to Soha. You can talk to everybody else in there. We got a fantastic little community in there that blows my mind that over time y'all have just become this sort of like self-governing entity that is beyond Chris and I, and I love it.
Like the Zerg.
So I don't know what we've created. But no, in all honesty, though, it's a fantastic community of people. So if you're not in there, what I'm saying is you should be. And you can find that along with all of our other good stuff like the Patreon, if you'd like to support the show in that fashion, or perhaps the merch store where you can pick up a sweet ass new No One Out Retros The Gorp Pizza Hut inspired t-shirt that we just dropped recently. That, as well as our YouTube channel and all our socials and the Twitch streams, all of that is in one convenient place, and that is Linktree. So just go to linktree/retro hangover, linktr.ee/retro hangover, and you can find all that stuff right there. And as I am wont to do, I will now ask Chris to tell you fine people just a little bit about what we do on Twitch and why you should watch it.
So yeah, if you head over to twitch.tv/retro hangover, you can watch us play games on Twitch Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, US. We might not have all the bells and whistles and necessarily the quality that Soha does, and you should go subscribe to his Twitch channel as well. But if you want to hear us just talk silly nonsense with the fantastic community that we do have, just head over to twitch.tv/retro hangover and we will be there. And if you want to watch our videos later, we do have a YouTube channel where you can catch that out, but it's always more fun to join us live at twitch.tv/retro hangover at 9 p.m. Eastern Time over on Twitch. We hope to see you there. Back to you, Shane.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I suppose with all of that being said, until next time,
Play with your Kerrigan sees me playing with my joysticks.
Shane here with a quick message. You know, the one rule Chris and I have always gone by regarding advertisements is this: it has to be something we use and can personally vouch for. If you know me, you know I love coffee, and Bones Coffee Company has been my go-to for home brewing for quite some time now. Their small batch beans come in an impressive variety of flavors like Mint Invaders from Chocolate Space, or Electric Unicorn, which I swear tastes exactly like Fruity Pebbles. And the best part? No added sugar or calories involved, just natural flavors infused right into the beans themselves. Build your own sample pack of 5 4-ounce bags to find out which flavors speak to you, or jump in head first with full 12-ounce bags. They've even got K-Cups. Step up your homebrew game with Bones Coffee by visiting bit.ly/RHPBones. That's bit.ly/RHPBONES.